It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Merlin Mann is back along with Alex, Lindsay, and Ihnatko for episode 212. Our first topic of the day, Steve Jobs and the Ninja Throwing Stars. MacBreak Weekly is next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for MacBreak Weekly is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 212, recorded September 14th, 2010. Ninja Throwing Stars. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by Hover.com. Hover is domain name registration and management that's simple. For 10% off your new domain or a new .me domain for only $5 for the first year, go to macbreak.hover.com. And by Go to Assist Express. If you're in tech support, solve problems fast with a leader in remote support software. Go to Assist Express. For a free 3-day trial, visit gotoassist.com/MacBreak. It's time for MacBreak Weekly. We are ready to cover the latest news from Cupertino. Joining us today, we're so glad to have him back on the show. He finally is out of book hell for at least the moment.
For the morning.
For the morning, anyway. Merlin Mann, 43folders.com, and Top Fives, and of course, the fantastic podcast, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yes, we were very proud of our work. Thank you, Leo.
You look nice today, which was the inspiration, obviously, for you. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. It's good to see you, Mr.
It's
Mann.
nice to see you guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Scott's still working for the paper factory, but he's in a new division.
Scott is in a very interesting new division at the paper factory.
Yeah.
He's doing good work.
Good. Yeah, we're proud of him.
And Adam's making money like a doorknob in a wet sweater. Crazy with the videos.
He did the Lonely Sandwich like does Vegas or something. What was that he did? Something like that. Anyway, there's Andy Ihnatko's laugh to save me just in time. He's chortling away, of course, from the Chicago Sun-Times and the celestial waste of bandwidth, and a host of MacBreak Weekly since day one. Is it since day one? Who was?
There was a well before you. You didn't have like that urine-proof matting on the tables and chairs yet. Once that studio was set up that way, then I was right on board. Yes,
basically all liquids bounce off now, and that's what we like.
I'm a sloppy drinker. I admit that.
He's got his Coke One in hand. I've got my ladies' version, the Diet Coke, in hand. And
I'm sorry.
Ready to go.
We got to do the American Idol thing. Make sure the label facing the camera at all times.
Yeah, exactly. Do you think there's really Coke in those glasses? I don't think so. I really don't. In fact, with Simon Cowell, I was pretty sure it was vodka. Also here, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Alex Lindsay from the Pixel Corps.
Hello, hello.
Off his travels.
It was a
You were in
whirlwind
London
tour.
last time we talked.
I was in London, Paris, and Amsterdam last week.
Wow.
Yeah, so we shot for Salesforce on Wednesday last week, and then we went to Paris and did an interview, and then we went to Amsterdam for IBC, which is kind of like the NAB of Europe. And then we went to the Heineken bar and learned how to pour Heinekens, and we practiced a lot, and then we crawled back to the hotel and got a flight home.
Love it. Did you carry with you any ninja throwing stars, just out of curiosity?
When I was younger, in a different part of my past, I used to carry a ninja throwing star in my wallet.
Me too.
What? You too, Merlin Mann?
Oh, yeah, small one.
Yeah.
I had the 6-inch ones, and I had the 3-inch ones.
I had 4 points, and then I had the great 8-point ones.
Was
and
this a fad I missed where you were you prepared to toss
Yeah,
this?
it's called being a man, Leo. Look it up. I had the 6-point ones. I had the 4-point ones were kind of hard to land, but
they're
I had
hard
a
to
big
get
old
the
piece.
stick.
Yeah.
Do you guys also carry multi-tools, Gerbers with you at all times?
I used to.
So Steve Jobs is apparently a man, according to SPA magazine. I'm not sure what the SPA magazine, SPA exclamation mark. SPA magazine says Steve Jobs will never return to Japan after officials at an airport barred him from taking ninja throwing stars aboard his private plane. Security scan at Kansai International Airport near Osaka detected the weapons inside the executive's carry-on luggage. Do they really, if you're flying private, do they still scan your luggage?
I think it depends on which airport you're going out of.
I guess terrorists could fly G6s. I don't know why you'd want to, but anyway, he was returning home from a family vacation in Kyoto. Spa is a Japanese magazine, apparently, so that's why it's got exclamation mark. Citing unidentified officials at the airport and the transportation ministry, Jobs said it wouldn't make sense for a person to try to hijack his own plane. He then told officials he will never visit Japan again. Apple says, what?
That's okay. It's not a big technology town.
Apple says, what? What are you talking about? Steve Dowling, a spokesman for Apple, says, Steve did visit Japan this summer for a vacation in Kyoto, but the incidents described at the airport are pure fiction. Steve had a great time and hopes to visit Japan again soon.
Now, the only way we're going to know which one is true is when we see Steve visit Japan again.
Right.
If he never visits Japan or doesn't do it for the next couple of years.
Because if Steve says, I'm not going back here, I would take him at his word.
Oh.
I mean, he's not the kind of guy. He's a grudge holder.
Yeah, and nobody watches video on a phone.
Nobody would ever want to read a book on an LCD device.
No, but I mean, like
Exactly.
he says I think he does this. I think he's into these red herring.
Well, you're going to
canary
put.
trap.
Are you going to
Canary
put? I will
trap, right?
never go back to Japan in that category.
Yeah, you could be throwing a tantrum. You could be mad.
Yeah, I've said that. I've said
It
that.
could be. It could be a feint. It could be a business feint. It could be something where maybe he's just. It's a deception, right? Maybe.
Although you got to rewind back that statement that it didn't imply that it wasn't butterfly knives, say, or nunchucks.
No, it could have been nunchucks.
Or one of them special
non-dimensional
shoes with a
Actually,
blow
we
gun in
don't
the
call them throwing stars. We call them shuriken. However,
Well, I bet you get much better ones in Japan than you get here because the ones here are kind of stamped.
It wasn't for him. It was for the kids.
Well, yeah, I mean,
I'm sure it wasn't
It's
for
always
him.
for the kids.
It's for the
Just
children.
like Jerry Lewis and the telethon.
It's for the kids.
I mean, they're not hardened here. They're stamped. They're barely,
You know,
it's
does
very
it
hard to
really
sharpen
matter
them.
when it's embedded in a ninja's head, whether it was stamped or hardened?
It makes a difference when you're sharpening them. Sharpen a stamped one.
As you lay down, you'd like to think that they made an effort, that this cost them, if they don't get this back, it's going to cost them $14. The star's going to cost them.
Then you got to run up. You got to pull it out of the guy's brain.
Exactly.
It's like the difference between scallops, right? There's the real scallops and there's the scallops that they cut out of like a big piece of array. Same thing here. The shurikens that you get in the United States are they're really crummy and they're hard. They don't keep an edge, right, Alex?
Well, that's the real problem because they haven't been folded. The ones you get in Japan, that steel has been folded
really
20 or
didn't
30
think we'd get
times.
this kind of
it is
discussion.
like a Damascus. It's like a shun knife,
is.
except
That's how they make it.
that it's a shuriken, and you're only going to
shuriken, is that how we pronounce it?
I don't know. That's what I called them.
Shuriken.
That's when I grew up that we called
Like
them shurikens.
sukiyaki is skiyaki.
Shuriken.
But seriously, how does a story like this happen?
Well, because Takashi Uno, a spokesman at the Kansai airport, said yes, a passenger using a private jet was stopped at the end of July for carrying shuriken. And the passenger whom Uno declined too many vowels, whom Uno declined to identify because of the airport's privacy policy, threw away the blade. So clearly, these weren't Damascus steel. The
I think it's safe to assume that anytime somebody in a private plane is detained in Japan, it's probably Steve Jobs.
I think so, or John Lennon. And since Lennon's no longer with us,
That was McCartney, right? Were you talking about the Wii?
oh, was it McCartney? No, I think Lennon too. Was it McCartney or was it Lennon?
1979,
Just
80.
don't do that in UAE.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he'd be in jail for life.
That's a weird story. That's a weird story, Leo. I don't know how something like that comes up. That's
Do you think
really
it's
odd.
true? Well, it came up because you bookmarked it. Do you think it's true?
You're talking about one of those kind of cheesy TechCrunch kind of
It
headlines?
is a kind of a TechCrunch headline, isn't it? Steve Jobs.
Is Steve Jobs trying to kill people in Japan?
Is he actually a ninja?
The next day,
You
the
can
story
imagine,
is,
this is the new
who
form of
was
firing in Apple?
marked for death by Steve Jobs.
That's right.
Who was he sent to assassinate him?
Why did he
Now,
carry
all,
them?
all of a sudden, the black turtleneck makes perfect sense.
He is a ninja. He was trained.
This will be the new
And
form of
that's the
firing
part of
in
a
Apple.
full body suit. The jeans just cover up the black booties and stuff.
Ooh.
Based on some stories I've heard about meetings with him, I could see him being a numchuck guy. I got to be honest. I could see him taking a bitch out with a numchuck. No question.
Can we raise the tone of conversation a little? So I shouldn't have led with that story because now nothing we
Well,
say.
we can dispose of it quickly, and it's a good way to start the day, isn't
It
it?
is a good way to start the day. Coming up, more news. But first, let me talk about hover.com. We just got to get the flavor of that story out of our mouths. Think of this as a little sorbet, exactly, in between the stories. Just a little break to freshen the palate. Hover.com is a great site, and I have a special deal. Actually, we're gonna take off the deal that I have on the screen right now because this is a special deal. If you go to macbreak.hover.com, it's only for MacBreak Weekly audience members. I should explain Hover.com is domain registrar. They've been around for a long time. You may know them as the name Domains Direct. They're a division of 2Cows, and they're great guys, and I use them and recommend it. In fact, as soon as they started up, we transferred all of our domains over from that other one.
The other one.
Yo Mama, I think it's called. Everything we transferred out. Mostly because Hover's not, I saw Yo Mama's up for sale,
Well, all I can say is that managing domains in Yo Mama
is a pain in the
it's painful.
mama. And they're up for sale. They say they'll get over $1 billion, and you know why? Because they make $800 million a year on those secondary services that they sell you. It's the upsell that drives me crazy.
It's the gauntlet to order. Like you just want to buy something, and then there's like 8 clicks of you can't find the next button.
Yeah. So this is not Hover.com. Hover.com, it focuses on making it easy to register and manage domains and email. They have a no-hold policy for customer service calls Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern. You're going to get a hold of a human, and they won't put you on hold. Now, one of the names that they want to give you, this is the deal for today. Do you have first name, last name, alexlindsay.com?
I do, but I did it a long time ago.
Yeah, see, I can't get Leo Laporte.
It's a good thing to get now.
I did get it for my kids. When you have children...
Who has Leo Laporte?
Well, somebody not me.
Some big jerky jerk who ruined everything for everyone.
So it's okay. But I did get first name, last name for my kids, Abby Laporte and HenryLaporte.com, some years ago. And I got like a 10-year registration on it. It was like $100 because I wanted to keep it. And then when they, when they hit 21, I want to hand it over to them.
It's like some people get $1 million, some people get a car.
None shall build upon this domain but my heir, my sky.
I thought that they would be grateful. Say, oh, Daddy,
it's
thank
much
you.
better than the Ford Focus. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Dad.
you were going to give us a Fiesta, but instead you gave us a domain name. It's really nice to have first name, last name. You don't even have to have a website because you could set it up with Hover to say go to your Facebook page or your LinkedIn profile or your Flickr page or your Twitter page, whatever it is. But the thing is, you can redirect it at any time. A lot of people, in fact, my kids say this, oh, we don't need AbbyLaporte.com. I've got Facebook. Even if you just point it to your Facebook page, that's the deal. You could make a live stream out of it, start a blog if you don't have one yet. Now, they have .com, .net, and .me. They suggest you look for .com and .net first, but .me is also out there. Use the code MacBreak. You'll get 10% off. And if you use .me as an extension, use the code MacBreak, and you'll get $5 a year for the first year. So this is a really great deal just for Hover users who listen to MacBreak Weekly. Please don't tell those schmucks who listen to Windows Weekly. This isn't for them. Macbreak.hover.com. Use the offer code MacBreak. Either save 10% off for .com or .net or $5 for a .me. And we do thank Hover so much for supporting.
It's a great interface. It's so clean.
Simple.
It's so clean.
It's like, just give me I just want the domain. And they don't do hosting. They don't do a lot of, they do email redirection if you want to do that. So that's another good reason if, you have Alex at alexlindsay.com. That's a nice thing to have.
Right.
I couldn't get Leo Laporte in 2000 or 99. I tried to.
Wow. Someone really got ahead of that.
Somebody got way ahead of it, and that's why it's Leoville.
Right.
Because I couldn't get Leo Laporte.
And if you're listening and you have LeoLaporte.com, stop being a jerky jerk and send it to Leo.
At this point,
it's just sitting there. It's empty. I looked at it.
It is empty.
So whoever's holding it is being
empty.
You're being.
I looked for that. I looked for LeoLaporte.me. Somebody's got that, and I wanted Leo.me would be cool. But it's weird if you go Leo at Leo.me. So Leo at Leoville, that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Merlin, do you have merlinmann.com?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see, you're smart. You knew. Were you an adaptive path back when the internet started?
Oh, I was just with them briefly doing freelance stuff. But my first domain name I ever bought was a .new because it was just really easy to buy. It was kind of costly. But yeah, then I got into the domain buying thing. And kids, if I can just talk you out of that.
How many domains? How many do you have?
Well,
probably a lot of them have lapsed, right?
Well, I've let some go. I've let, some of them were really just.
Do you have shuriken.com?
No, that sounds good.
You should I will buy them literally for one joke, and then I'll forget that they're renewing. And then I have 180 domains, and that's no good.
Dick T. Bartolo does that too. In fact, he has a domain that he bought.
You know what, Leo? Can I just say that should be in the DSM-5 for ADD? That should be one of the.
Yeah.
That should be one of the.
You buy
If
a
you're
lot
out
of
there buying
domains.
That's the
domain names
diagnostic.
for a joke,
Yep.
you should get help. That should
Yeah,
really.
you're ADD. If you have more than 20 domain names, you're ADD.
Oh, I was ADD a long time ago then.
Yeah. Dick registered Merry Christmas from Dick DeBartolo, Mad's Maddest Writer, and thegizwiz.com. And then he posted his Christmas, he put his Christmas card on it. This was a couple of years ago, and he sent everybody the link.
You know, the best one, can I tell you the best one I own, though? I think you might have linked this before. Cash Duke 777 double what money supply income muse 78.com.
You don't really have that, do you?
Yeah, it's awesome.
And what do you use that for?
It's a single video I made as a parody, and I bought Cash Duke 777 double what money supply income money muse 78.com.
Is it still good?
Oh yeah.
When the .com, is it .com?
Oh yeah. No, it's one of that's like that McSweeney's joke.com. I think it's still up. Let me check.
I don't even know how I would open it.
No, I just sent it to you.
Oh, that's so funny.
You know, we need. Do you have the rat hole music?
Yeah, because
Oh, sorry.
by now we've exceeded the rat hole.
I just realized I missed it.
That's
They
why
are
we
getting
miss Merlin.
such a deal for this ad. My God.
We're not still in hover, are we? Are we still in hover
We're
mode?
still talking about domain names.
Markets are conversations, Leo.
Markets are conversations, he says. Mr. Clue Train here. Ha 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 ha.
Anyway, so also on
There we go.
We had to do it because Merlin was here.
I got
We go through many rat holes, but we can't define them as rat holes because part of the definition of rat hole is a rat hole when Merlin is here.
Yeah.
I'm trying so hard, you guys. I'm trying so
No,
hard.
we
We
Love
love
you,
it.
Merlin.
That's the best part. That's the best part of it. We're not complaining. We're
We're
just
happy.
having
We're
fun.
celebrating
Yeah.
it.
We're
Let's
celebrating.
celebrate
don't
it.
like it. The kids don't like it. The kids want the hot Apple content, and I apologize.
You know,
I
not always.
I cool your Apple content, and I apologize for that.
I think they love the entertainment.
So apparently in the configuration, I've been waiting for this day. On the configuration of build your own on a build your own iMac or Mac,
Comes with a jet engine.
they've got the 27-inch cinema display is in the list now. So you can. I don't know what happens if you order it because I didn't actually have the nerve to order it. But I really want the 27 cinema display. Rumor is it'll be under $1,000. $799 now for the 24, right? Or $699. It's expensive.
great.
So going to 27. Oh, that's sweet.
Well, it's a denser pixel. It's the same width, I believe, as the
right,
30-inch as far as the number of pixels.
It's just
So
widescreen.
it's just widescreen, dense.
I've been checking because they said September, so I've been checking every day this month.
That's got the camera built in.
It's got the camera.
You like the smaller form factor and the density of the, I'm going to get the terminology wrong, but the denser retina-like display of it is just, you get the same amount of stuff just in a smaller footprint, and it just looks better. Is that the idea?
I like that. Yeah. I like that.
He's got
I
good
like
eyes.
my 30-inch, but it's a monster.
I like
It's
30,
really-
and exactly,
Yeah,
it's big.
It's a big
Yeah.
monitor.
The other thing, unlike the 30, these new ones are like the 24, where if you have a laptop, it has a USB connector, a MagSafe connector, and a mini DisplayPort connector. 3 little connectors coming off the back. You plug them in. You don't even open the laptop. You just plug them in, and now you have a desktop.
Right.
So I bought the Magic Trackpad. I have the Bluetooth keyboard. I just need the 27, and then when I put my i7, I have a pretty high-end MacBook Pro. That'll be really a nice, sweet setup.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to that. But I'm still looking because I see in the store it is not yet.
Well, it makes those smaller screens make a lot more sense. So a 13-inch or 15-inch, like if you want the real estate
Laptop,
at home at 7, like the big real estate at home, but you want to be able to travel. Like we have when we travel for these shoots, we have 2 17-inches in my 13-inch that we carry around,
Right.
and which gets a lot of attention at security. But my brother was stuck with the 17 on the way back from Amsterdam, and he's like, yeah, I can't open it more than about 45 degrees, and my little 13-inch opens really nicely. And so you want to have that 13-inch for when you're traveling, but when you get home, you want the big screen real estate, and having it be able to be easy and just able to pop it in is the key to the operation.
It's funny because we got one for you because you were using the office. We got the 24. Right. And for the longest time, we were trying to figure out how do you keep the laptop on? He had it open. And stuff.
It was like,
And we finally figured out you just
plug it in.
You
Yeah,
don't even
exactly.
open it. Just plug it in.
silly boy.
So Steve Jobs has rewritten the rules, and I'm curious what you guys think. The iOS development restrictions are now changed. They're going to allow third-party tools and third-party ad services, and they finally published the actual guidelines for getting into the store. This is the first time they've ever even published guidelines for the store.
I think this was a conversation with Apple's lawyers
Because
I
of the
think
FTC
I
investigation?
think they're asking
Yeah,
a lot of questions.
absolutely.
This is going to get ugly, and it's better for us to be proactive rather than be forced by the courts where we don't have control. The risk is too high. Whether we think we can win or not is not the point. If we lose and the courts make a decision, this is going to get ugly because they don't really know what they're doing. I think that's what they're afraid of.
I think you just really saw the precise palatability factor. That I think Apple was willing to fight a PR battle over these policies, but they weren't willing to fight a legal battle over it. That's as simple as that.
And it wasn't like they committed themselves to that much specific stuff. What they really did, in some ways.
Well, you're talking about the review guidelines. We're saying this first part. Well, I think there's two things.
the ability to
use Adobe Flash, for instance,
you're talking
to
about
write
that.
apps.
just opening up the development, saying that all the code does not have to be Objective-C
Unity
compiled in. Right, exactly. You can do. Really, this is chiefly a nod to. Not only Adobe's action, but also the ability, clarification, so that game developers would not have to worry about using different frameworks and different APIs in order to get something working on their own platform.
But it wasn't.
But you notice that they did reserve. You cannot download your app cannot download and execute any external code during operation. So that does put the blocker on any idea of Adobe developing a Flash app that is just sort of like a handoff app, so they can still load web games and web Flash content, because that would still not be legal under the idea.
And in Apple's defense, that would also be a big security hole.
Right.
Is it fair to say that whatever you can get into a C library is fair game? I mean, where's the line? Because, for example, this was going to be one of my picks, but
no, you had to use the official Apple SDK. You could not. Yeah, before this has changed, but before you had to use the libraries provided by Apple and no other.
Yeah, you had to build an Xcode. You
couldn't use third-party libraries. You couldn't just say, I'm going to use it, right?
The specific example I'm thinking of is, I'm a huge Markdown nerd. I write everything in Markdown, and I've gone so far as to basically try and cobble together my own web app for making this easy to do on the fly. But the fact is, you can't run Perl, you can't run PHP, you can't take any of the basic, the main ways that either John or the people who did it afterward have done it. But this new app calls on, I believe it's called Discount, is a Markdown library in C. And so it's able to do this. Basically, you get this great thing now where it's designed to be, you write you write Markdown and then email it. But I just use it to write Markdown. But my point is that there's so much stuff that I wish I could do through things like Text Expander that actually do require shell type Unix capabilities. I wonder what kind of stuff could you jam into a C library that might route around some of these limitations?
I'm not. Maybe there's a developer in the chat room who could talk about this, because you're right. I mean, why couldn't you just write a library and compile it in Xcode, and then you'd have the capability? How restrictive is Apple?
I think
it's certainly. It's certainly it opens up a lot of doors. I mean, I'm talking completely out of my butt.
No, but you should be able to link to a C library.
Yeah, but it certainly opens up a lot of functionality, and it potentially keeps things more stable, right? It's compiled, it's done, and you don't have all this wildcat stuff going on with pulling this crap off the web.
Our chat room, Keith says, and Briggs says, you can in fact link to a third-party library. So,
well, I think that one of the things that I'm going to want to know as a user is I would really like things to be certified one way or the other. If they're developed natively in Xcode, I'd like to know that what I'm buying is developed natively or it's not native. And the reason that's important is because I've already had experience with Skype is native, but I can tell you right now that I barely open up Skype on my phone because I know it's going to drain my battery into the ground. And so if I'm going to have stuff that is going to be not necessarily play as well on the OS as other things, I think it behooves Apple to say, yeah, you can develop for it, but we're going to put a little certified Xcode, whatever, that we know is going to play well in the system. I think that makes sense for Apple, because I think that they just need to let people know. And then if I want to buy the app anyway, it's fine if I want that functionality, but I just need to know.
We've talked about before, which was the idea of having a vetted app store and then an open app store. Right. Of course, if you jailbreak, you've got Cydia and the other app stores, but wouldn't it be nice if Apple made that choice? And by the way, going in the other direction, it'd be really nice if Android had a vetted store and a non-vetted store. There's word that Verizon's going to do an app store. Maybe that'll be a little bit better vetted.
Verizon for the Android.
For the Android.
But see, I think this is the real challenge that Android has, is people starting to build lots of different app stores, thousands, I mean, not thousands, but tens of different flavors of Android, which apps work where. I think this is going to be the thing that is going to make Android a real mess if they don't figure out how to get some kind of control over it.
Well, they won't. They can't, because it's open, and so they can't. And this is the problem Google has, is that anybody can use Android for free on any device, whether or not it has the right screen resolution, the right capabilities. It doesn't matter. You can do it.
Right, and it's more the restrictions that the different phone companies are putting on the different Android phones. It just means that I can as that grows, I think that's going to be a real difficult challenge for Android to grow past the kind of the geek and semi-geek culture.
By the way, I have go ahead, Andy.
I was going to say that's a key problem. I've got the Droid 2 here that's running Froyo 2.2, and as soon as I got my first 2.2 Android device, the first thing I checked was the camera app, because I have a Nexus 1 that gets the build direct from Google.
Right.
And the Google version of the camera app is wonderful. It fixes every problem that I didn't like about the first version. But of course, you get the Verizon version, and they're free to put their own version of it in it, and all the really cool features that I like in the Froyo edition are now absent. I still have to tap through 3 different menus to get a +1 exposure or change the white balance. So that's the problem that Android has historically
of course, because it's open, you can change that because you can put your own ROMs on there and everything. So, but it's a pain in the butt. I agree with you, and I think. But you know what? This is called the world of cell phones, which suck. And the advantage Apple has is they have one carrier. And they can write the rules for that carrier. As soon as they open it up to another carrier or two, they're going to have the same problems, which is the carriers. And of course, Apple's still also the one manufacturer. This is the advantage Macs have, right?
Right.
One source, one manufacturer. It's both an advantage and a disadvantage.
It's one of the reasons that we stopped doing a lot of our development for our software on the PC side. Now we're looking at maybe doing that in very limited quantities again, but the problem was we had to test it against 27 machines. It was this huge, we had all these people that we'd send our software out to make sure that it worked on all these different flavors. On a Mac, we would there were 2 or 3 different flavors that we'd check out, and we knew it worked, and it just.
I got my regular email from my inside source at Verizon, and I have some surprising news for you, and we'll get to that in a second. But I do want
to... Can I ask you guys a question?
Sure.
I guess we'll probably get to the iTunes Store, the changes to their acceptability policy stuff too. But I'm just curious, in general, with all of these changes, I might be jumping ahead here, but who do you think... For whom does this make the most difference in terms of deciding whether or not to develop for this platform? Who's going to either hear this and go, okay, that's definitely not enough for me to invest in this, or who's going to hear this and say, okay, I'm satisfied. You know what I mean? Because there's folks out there.
No, it's mainly games. I think it's game developers, because a lot of the frameworks that make games work are scripting platforms, and those were specifically prohibited by the terms that Apple was offering.
Unity is the big one.
Exactly. And so this suddenly means that there's nothing prohibiting you from do that. Essentially, Apple has explicitly stated that, come on, you know what we mean about scripts.
Right.
But apparently you didn't, so we're going to say explicitly, fine.
Right.
Here's what we want. So the gaming
so we're in agreement, though, that they said yes to this because of pressure, legal pressure.
I think this is way more about legal issues than it is about trying to bring more developers.
Developers did not. Yeah. I mean, I don't think developers were able to convince Apple of this. The FTC was able to convince Apple. Right. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely the case. I don't think Apple needs more. I mean, when you talk to developers, their ROI on developing Android versus iPhone generally is much higher on the iPhone, and so the draw.
You don't
really
think that
there.
Apple's
if it makes it onto the store, but go read the story about briefs.
Right.
Go curl your hair.
Right.
It's staggering. I mean, it's of all these examples that are out there, what that poor guy went through is just sad.
Tell us the story. Tell us the story.
Tell us the story.
Oh, this is just a story that's gone around, and I'm not the first person to report this, but there's a really interesting app called Briefs, and the notion is you could basically doodle a UI longhand, and long story short, you develop a working prototype of an app on your phone very, very quickly, which is hugely helpful. I mean, there's apps like this. I have one on my iPad called iMockups that makes it easy to basically do wireframes for a website. But the guy who did Briefs, anyway, you can read the story yourself. But essentially,
Rob Rhine is his name. RHYNE.
Put a lot. See, and from every report, he sounds like this super nice guy. He's got a new kid. He put all this effort into this app, and I don't want to misstate the facts, but it's my understanding that he has done nothing but play ball at every level. He's not gone out and dissed Apple. He tried really hard to just play by the rules, and it sounds. To use an overused adjective, it sounds perfectly Kafka-esque, his experience of this, where, he even had people on the inside trying to help him. And, it was like whacking at a non-existent piñata. He just kept trying and trying to see his efforts. And I don't know. I mean, not to go on a rant, but I mean, it's just like, it's a lot of effort. If it's not a game and you're just grabbing some library and putting some graphics in, that's a lot of work in making one of these apps.
He's open sourced it at this point. He finally gave up.
He's thrown in the towel and said, hey, go enjoy it. And so anyway, I'm just curious because Yeah, sure. I mean, for right now, they've got the lead. They are the go-to place for this, but they're not going to have that forever. And if they want to bring people in, if they really want this to explode to the next 10x level, they're going to have to do a lot more than say, we don't want fart apps. They're going to have to do something that really demonstrates that you can trust this process with your business, that it's not just a joke.
I think that the thing that I've noticed with Apple is that they're very focused on what I call 90-90, which is what will 90% of the people want 90% of the time, and that is, where, so if you go into the 10-10 area, there's not a lot of support. and I find that there's not a lot of commitment to supporting that area. And I think I used to complain about it a lot, and I still complain about it, and I get upset, and I go, I'm going to go get an Android. But I realize that model has been really successful for them, is to really focus on what will 90% of people do 90% of the time.
I think what you're describing is actually really smart. It's a variation on the Pareto principle, and it is really smart because it says that there's a large number of significant data that comes out, or significant stuff that comes out of a relatively small minority of stuff, or in your case, a large minority of stuff. And I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it's difficult to know when someone doesn't do something in life. It's very difficult to know when somebody stops looking at your website, or when somebody stops. So it's hard for them to probably know how much opportunity they're leaving on the table by not taking this as seriously as any other business would.
I think releasing the guidelines is a very important step. They should have done it before, but they've done it now. And they were surprisingly candid. Go ahead, Andy.
I'm just saying they already have good information, good metrics coming back. The fact that they have the largest app library anywhere, the most profitable app library anywhere, that doesn't mean that their decisions are correct. But if you ask an Apple, someone who's in charge of these decisions, is this the right decision to make? They will point to these numbers and say that, well, clearly they're always, we can't make everybody happy. We're not saying that our guidelines will work great for everybody, but clearly we're providing a service that is working for both us as Apple, both Apple for developers and for the users. So I got into a discussion with this a few months ago with somebody who was saying, I was at a conference, they're like, oh, I can't believe that anybody would want to publish through the Apple Store. They're so restrictive. They're anti-freedom. And my response is the same now as it was then, that you have the freedom to not do business through the Apple Store. Apple will continue. Apple will suffer if they're making the wrong call. If Android can do it better, if HP can do it better through the WebOS store, that's a huge opportunity for those people. That's why 2011 is going to be a very important series of battles. Apple will continue doing what they're doing until it stops working for them.
Yeah, well, that's when they get the metric. But is it timely? Is I guess the question.
Yeah, but again, they're making money hand over fist. They're continuing to grow.
Also, in fairness, Andy, that's not really what I was saying. And I mean, I take the point that there are. Well, yeah, but I agree with both of you guys that it's really easy to go over the edge and get all emo about this. And in fact, a lot of the people who got really emo about this eventually said, hey, look, the truth is, in order for me to play this game, I'm going to just have to accept this thing that I don't like. And that's how life works. I'm saying something a little bit different, which is that, and it may not be significant. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe they'll always be on top. Maybe they'll never have to worry about competing. But that lead will diminish in one way or another. And it certainly doesn't hurt to show the people who are developing for your platform that you take them seriously. And you have to look no further than the world of open source to see that is true. Developers will leave. Well, I'm going to just finish one thought. Developers will leave. Developers will leave the platform that they feel, and they're like rats leaving a sinking ship, right? We've seen this over the years. They're going to go where the other developers are and where the users are. So I'm not even making a case for freedom. I'm making a case for Apple to have a kind of sustainability that goes way beyond the people who are interested in Apple now to the giant companies that might want to make something that becomes a real earner, not a 99-cent fart app, but more of the $500 apps that nobody's going to go develop.
Well, I think that's if you look at these guidelines, I have to say I was impressed by the kind of the informality and the candor of these. For instance, we have lots of kids downloading lots of apps, and parental controls don't work unless the parents set them up. Many don't. So no, we're keeping an eye out for the kids. You think Steve wrote these, Merlin? I think you implied.
Well, that was Gruber's. I don't know if it was Gruber who originally said that, but I first saw the link there, and he said that. If you read that,
it's very informal. We have over 250,000. Oh, the first line of the whole thing?
What's the very first line?
We're thrilled you want to invest your talents and time to develop applications for iOS. It has been a rewarding experience, both professionally and financially.
Sorry, I was looking for the one line where he goes, da da da, something, something, something. We don't need any more
Fart apps. Yeah, it's not the first. It's not the first line.
Also, the idea that if you play this out, if you fight this fight in public, that's not going to help anybody.
Don't try
that
touching
was
us in
huge.
public won't help.
Right.
Yeah.
It says, we will reject apps for any content or behavior we believe is over the line. What line, you ask? Well, as a Supreme Court justice once said, I'll know it when I see it, and we think that you will also know it when you cross it. Look, some C-level executive wrote this. This is not a marketing guy.
Right.
This is not a developer that wrote this. This is somebody with a lot of power and confidence. If your app looks like it was cobbled together in a few days, or you're trying to get your first practice app into the store to impress your friends, please brace yourself for rejection. We have a lot of serious developers who don't want their quality apps to be surrounded by amateur hour. Steve's used that phrase amateur hour before. I think that might be a telling
I mean,
phrase.
I want to really just bracket, like, my desire for them to have more complete and exhaustive and unambiguous guidelines has nothing to do with the fact that I think that was brilliant. I think it was brilliant to put that plainly.
Yeah.
Google's trying to do a similar thing. I don't know if they're succeeding as well with their privacy stuff, but everywhere you turn, there is so much unapologetic BS in business.
Yeah.
And people constantly speak to you and they say untrue things all the time and act like we can't tell. And even if they're going to say, hey, look, you know what? We're not going to tell you everything. We're not going to agree to everything. But what we do tell you is going to sound like us. You know what I mean? I really
admire it. No,
it.
there's a voice in this, which I thought was quite good. And let me see. I'm trying to find that fart.
It's right at the very top. It's in that first section.
Is it?
It's like the fourth paragraph.
We have over 250,000 apps in the App Store. We don't need any more fart apps. If your app doesn't do something useful or provide some form of lasting entertainment, it may not be accepted. I mean, it's not as. If you go down below, there's some very concrete, things.
Mm-hmm.
Apps that are beta, demo, trial, or test versions will be rejected. Apps that launch or install other executable code will be rejected. I mean, they're very clear.
But something like, but something. I'm not sound contradictory, but the line. There's one line in there. I don't have this in front of me, but the one line in there is like. Two lines that were interesting. One was that I think they say something along the lines of, if there's a lot of apps that do what you do, you're more likely to be rejected.
Right.
And the more costly your app is, the more scrutinized it'll be. Both of which, on the face of it, absolutely makes sense. But that's a very dynamic, kind of slippery, changeable, evolving thing.
Yeah.
That's not. And again, and I just want to stipulate, I think they're brilliant for their own reasons to not pin themselves down.
But why didn't they publish this before, is my question. This is something that should have been published on day one, don't you think?
But I think
because they needed 2 years worth of sample data before they could figure out here's what. Because I really think that it is a case of them looking at apps and saying, instinctively, I think this is right for the App Store. Instinctively, I know this is not right for the App Store. And it takes a couple of years for them to say, well, we're still not going to tell you, here are the rules that will get your app approved. They can say, here are reasons why we're approving a lot of different apps.
Or more importantly, disapproving
a lot of different apps.
Yeah.
Well, I think
that is a troubling line. The idea that if there are a lot of apps that do what your app do, they didn't say that it won't be approved. But if you are the 91st app that simply turns on the LED and turns into a flashlight, then you're not going to go through. That should be a good piece of warning. Though it's a good thing to keep in mind. But I think that it's mostly instructive to the developers, saying, don't just copy what another app does. Do something. To try to reduce the clutter that's on the App Store.
Well,
that's the cure and curation.
And I think as a user, I like to see that. It's not that I don't want a lot of different choices, but I do want the apps to distinguish themselves from each other as I'm buying them. Because one of the things that we don't have is you don't have quite the same support information that you would have. You don't have a lot of demos. The App Store doesn't really handle demos very well. And so it's really hard to test a lot of this stuff. So I ended up and what's nice about it is that most of the stuff is cheap. Like when I wanted a walkie-talkie application for my iPhone, I just bought all of them. And it was a little bit painful to, I spent $20 or $30 on a whole bunch of walkie-talkie ones, and there's really only one that I recommended a couple weeks ago that I felt was really usable. But I'm happy that they were all. There was a couple of them I wish hadn't been approved because they were completely not workable. And so the thing is that they just don't work. And so I spent $3 on something that doesn't. I
wonder why it got approved in that case.
Well, it's hard to tell if it's not working unless you have a specific use. If you have someone sitting there testing it, the buttons work, and this turns on.
This is the one thing that does bother me is there's this implication that the review process is somehow perfect. And so that you're protected, you're secure. They're not going to be apps that are bad apps. They're not going to be apps that don't work in there. And in fact, it can't be perfect.
Well, I think it's the other way around. I think that developers have an expectation that it's like detecting radon, where I'm sorry, you scored 12 parts per million instead of 400, and so therefore it has to be rejected. It is going to be a very slippery and analog process, no matter how they do it.
Yeah. Well, and I think to your point, Andy, also it's just so frustrating. I think about my friend, some of my friends. Think about like Nevin Mergen and like what that guy puts into an app. It's like the polish that goes into some of my friends. This polish that goes into their apps is astounding. And I don't make iPhone apps eventually, but right now I could see being really frustrated at putting that kind of polish into an app and being scrutinized so carefully. Last time I was on the iTunes store, the #1 free app was a virtual pimple popper.
Right. Well, and see, this is
you're getting the same scrutiny whether you're a pimple popper or whether you're a serious pro. This is
my complaint is that Apple kind of promotes the notion that this is going to be a great experience for users and they're only going to be valuable apps, and it really isn't that.
I don't think they ever said that second thing.
Okay. I think it's going to be a better experience, not a great. It doesn't have to be necessarily a great experience, but when I download some of the apps that don't work or things that I'm really like, I can't believe someone's actually selling this, I often think, I can't imagine how bad it would be if there wasn't anybody looking at this. Because I just, I stopped buying. That's the problem.
Look at the Android marketplace. That's the example.
And it's mostly free. And why is it mostly free? Because you don't know, you have no idea whether it's going to work.
Well, I actually have to disagree for a couple of things. Number one, if you buy an application on the Android marketplace and you uninstall it within 24 hours, you get your money back.
Wow, that's great.
Something
Apple should do that.
Yeah.
No, that means then Apple has to give that money back too. That means there's a reason that they don't do that, which is they don't want to give back that money.
Well, and I think that's not.
Well, there's a reason why Android does that, and that's because it doesn't want to vet its applications too carefully.
Well, which would you prefer?
I want both.
But I mean, you can't play both sides
I prefer
of
the choice.
street.
I prefer the choice between iPhone and Android. I'm happy that there are two platforms out there.
Oh, very well played, sir. Well played.
Excellent. I wriggle free.
Game, set, match.
Everybody gets a ribbon.
And actually, MG Siegler wrote an interesting piece on TechCrunch about. He's saying, hey, look, Android's not open. Because look what all the carriers are doing to it. Because it's open source, anybody can do anything and end up making these closed things. So I don't think open's the right word, but maybe choice is the right word. And you're right. There's the overarching choice, the meta choice between Apple, iPhone, and Android phones and Windows mobile phones and BlackBerry phones, and that choice is important. But I think even within Android, you have more choice, and I think that the Android marketplace works fine. I don't see the problem that people often ascribe to it of having a huge amount of bad stuff or unusable stuff or by the way, malware. I don't think it's a particularly malware.
I don't think it's a malware problem, but it's frustrating that when I go into the App Store on the iPhone, I'm looking for a camera app. I will have to try 3 or 4 before I'll find one that's polished and has the features I like. In Android, I can get to you have reached the end of the App Store. There are no more decent apps. You're done. Which of these 4 apps did you try, or excuse me, 2 apps did you try, did you hate less? Okay, well, I guess I'll go with this one. It doesn't really work very well. It doesn't suit my needs, but I need an app that does this, and that's what I've got.
That's increasingly not the case, of course, because there's 80,000 apps now. And
Andy, I think you just nailed 2 problems, really. I mean, for me, one of them is namespace pollution, which is that my understanding is on the App Store, you have to have a name that is unique. And so the first person who uploaded an app called Camera gets Camera.
Well, right? And you've seen that there's a big squatting problem now on the Apple Store.
And so, but second of all, I think it's a UX problem of making it very difficult to sort and subsort, and especially when I'm looking at browsing on a mobile device, it's very hard to get a true sense of of not just what's most popular or featured, but do you know what I'm saying, Andy? Like, I wish there was a little more.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I don't want to interrupt you.
I should say, like, cameras is a perfect example because some of those I mean, the difference between the difference between Camera Plus, for example, which is one of my go-tos. I have this HDR camera app. I've got like 3 camera apps I really like. I've got a bunch of sort of effects apps I really like. But the difference between one of those that's like good versus the ones of those that are execrable is an ocean of difference. Some of these are like they I'm not even understand. I'm not that guy. I'm not.
To me, it's like YouTube. It's like YouTube versus.
I just really wish that Apple would do like an editorial subcategory where it's no good to simply have one category called productivity that has 1,000 apps in it. Right. I want productivity word processors, productivity personal information organizers, and maybe you're not going to and let the.
See, I don't want Apple to do anything, and this is why I like the Android store. I want the user, no, really, seriously, I like the users to do this kind of thing, and there's good choices. There's websites. Why should Apple be the one that the arbiter of all this?
But Leo,
because you're paying them money to do that.
But they don't do a good job. They have 24 fart apps on there. You've already said that.
$200 for an Android phone, and then you deal with Google's usual policy, which is, well, there you go. Good luck with that.
But you don't have to because there's 100 support apps. There's plenty of support out there. There's reviews. You're saying I would prefer something like I don't know what the example would be, Vidler versus YouTube. You know, look at the reviews. Look at this.
I think what I'm asking for is a simple word. I'm looking for a librarian. And what a librarian does...
There's plenty of people to do that. Should Apple be the librarian?
Well, let me ask you this, Leo. If you wanted to buy a camera app today, how would you decide which one to pick on the iPhone?
I'd read the reviews.
Really?
Wouldn't you? What would you do?
First
of all, you can't try them and get your money back, so you've got a disadvantage there. Right.
I experienced reading those reviews.
Not the App Store reviews. Those are crappy. I agree.
Oh, you mean on the web?
The web. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And the app, people are treating the App Store like it has to do everything. I think it doesn't do everything.
Well, I think it should do a little bit more. That's all.
Maybe it should do more.
I mean, this gets back into, and I kind of gone down this path before, but this goes back to like the thing I was talking about with music, where I'd love to be able to say, show me other people that have bought apps like me, and I can control that correlation.
That's app brain on Android. There's nothing like that on the iPhone.
Yeah, and then let me say, when they buy it, when enough people in my cloud that I've created, I don't even know who the cloud is. I don't want it to be like Ping, where I'm choosing people. I want it to choose a correllation cloud that tells me how many people I've gotten.
Ping will do that. I think Ping will eventually do that.
Oh yeah, for music.
I was buying music last night, and Ping told me in a little bit thing in the sidebar. It said, "Oh, by the way, that album you're looking at right now, Adam Engst owns this." I'm like, "Oh well, Adam Engst
that's cool." So you think a Ping for apps is what's going to happen?
I think
it'll be helpful.
I think something that allows us, I think the problem right now with a lot of these things, whether it's Twitter or whether it's Ping or whatever, is that we are being limited by our own consciousness. And what I mean by that is that we're picking people that we want to follow. But the reality is that what we really want is people that are correlated to us, correlated to our views, and we don't need to know who they are. And if we were able to simply control.
This has all been solved on Android. But
that's a really good point, Alex. It's a self-selecting bias.
There's this app on Android called App Brain. You can follow me. You can follow anybody you want. You can see what they buy. You can find out about it. You can read reviews. It's a very effective app.
But I don't want to follow. I don't want to say I want to follow you. What I want to say is look at everybody who's buying through the App Store
and see how they match
give me a correlation. So what I can do is I want two dials. One is the number. Build me a cloud that is a correlation. So basically, if I set the correlation to 100%, it's 1. That's me. But as I pull that down, I see a bigger cloud of people. I don't know who they are. Their privacy is protected.
Have you looked at the Genius? Does it do a good job of recommendations for you?
It does okay. It's just that the problem is that what we're missing is that all these companies, Netflix, Apple, everybody
does this.
Everyone is trying to figure out how to do it automatically. I don't want them to do it automatically. I want 2 sliders. Let me control the correlation and let me decide at what level. If 30% or 20% or 50% pick it, then I will then tell me about it. And the thing is by me having control over the sliders, I can control the flow. I can decide, oh, I'm getting too much crap, so I'm going to turn the correlation up a little bit, or oh, I'm getting too many of these, and I'm going to turn up the stringency of when to show it to me. And as a user, I can control my flow by doing that. And I think that would make a massive difference on purchasing lots of things and getting news, getting apps, getting music.
You could see this in a lot of environments, Twitter and Dig and a lot of environments, and nobody does it. And my suspicion is they don't do it because it scares off users. It becomes so complicated.
But it's too little.
I agree.
You know what's interesting also is when you use Netflix, I think Netflix is a company that really interests me for a lot of reasons. And one of the reasons is clearly the way that they're compensated involves getting people to add lots of things to their queue. That to me feels like something they've identified as a business goal, just because they're constantly pushing you. Now try this. Now try this. Now try this. And I got to say, a lot of the times the special sauce is pretty good. To your point, Alex, I like that they say, "Here's what we think you will think of this based on our secret sauce."
Right.
One thing I want to say, Leo, to your point, I agree with you. Whenever I am going to go into what is it like, if I wanted to go buy boner medicine on the internet, I'd be screwed. because the thing is, there's so much fake boner ads that like it's impossible. And for certain kinds of apps, you definitely run into that. So yes, I will go and search with Google. But and I don't mean this as a slam, but given the fact how many of those links you click on go to Click Synergy, right? There's a big incentive for people to do these crappy dumps of 45 indispensable camera apps.
Well, this is why curation is important. I agree with you.
No, exactly. So that's why, I mean, for myself, this is just my opinion. I start with Macworld. Macworld because I trust Chris Breen.
Right.
You know, the problem is like the same. There's the same problem in some flavor runs through all of this, which on some level, to quote Gordon Gekko, is greed. Is that most of the reasons people want to help you with anything is that they're trying to make a buck. There's not that much real curation. And real curation is a way of saying, I've done a lot of the cognitive load and processing for you, and I want to show you why I think this is good for this sort of person. And then you can draw your own conclusions. I agree with you. Apple should not be our mom. But at the same time, I think as long as there's this financial incentive to just push this mass of people toward the App Store for them to make a nickel here and there, you know, it's just more pollution on top of the pollution. So,
well, that's what I'm saying. Apple shouldn't be the curator. There should be third-party curation.
How's this for a curveball? A very Microsoft thing. Could you ever see, gentlemen of the board, could you ever see Apple having a tiered program where you could pay a little extra to become iTunes approved or similar, sort of like, you know what I'm saying? A very Microsoft-esque way to handle that. Could you ever see them having a premium tier where it's not necessarily about buying placement, but it's about saying it's been tested against the following kinds of things, it's guaranteed virus-free, whatever. Could you ever see them doing that?
No. Because that way, anyone who's not participating in that program would say, "Wait a minute, you're saying that without this shield, it means that my app could be filled with viruses?"
And imagine the liability issue if you don't discover the virus in there, and you'll never see any company assert ever that something's secure because you can't.
McAfee, I see that McAfee thing hundreds of times a day.
Yeah, what is it saying, though? This site doesn't have any viruses
on it. It doesn't matter what it's saying. The point, your point is that people don't do that, and I'm saying they do. I'm saying all the time. How many times do you see?
Yeah, but read carefully what it's asserting. It's not asserting that you're safe.
This was checked for something.
Yeah.
We're checking for the flu, but he may still have diphtheria.
Yeah, I think that
Apple would be saying that any apps that do not have that shield are at risk for several things that we should be covering your butt from. So they would never, ever do that.
It seems to me that would be something that nobody would want.
Don't you think at some point they're gonna want and need a way? I mean, I don't think
even Microsoft, which desperately wanted and needed such a thing, hasn't done that.
All I know
they
is
would do it in such a way that it would apply to all apps, I think.
I do feel overwhelmed by I'll just say the amount of stuff that's on the App Store. It is I think it is fair to state that there is a business problem with the amount of stuff and how hard it is to kind of get to what you want.
There must be a name for this concept. There's too many videos there's too many blogs, there's too much stuff, it's overwhelming. There's got to be a name for this. This is
curation.
But I'm just saying this is an objection commonly raised in every sphere where democracy has allowed anybody to create something, is, it's too much. I don't want so much. I just want the best. YouTube is a perfect example. There's too many videos, and there's got to be a name for that. Somebody said old man syndrome. It's not old man syndrome, but
it's called a first world problem.
But you see it. You hear this argument a lot, and I hear it a lot when I first started talking about the democratization of media. People say, "Oh yeah, but then if everybody has a voice, is cacophony." And I don't know. In my heart, I feel like it's better to have that and then have some form of curation laid on top of it. Crowd-sourced curation, by the way, not single-point curation laid on top of it, than it is to say the old way, which is this gated community that only those with the resources could enter.
Well, I think
totally. But I mean, you also then run into the gaming, where you seek. I mean,
of course you do. There's all sorts of stuff that happens.
I don't doubt for a second that people are out there just reading those reviews. Marco Arment from Tumblr. You guys probably saw this the other day. Marco scraped. I don't want to misstate what he did, but he basically went in and grabbed all of the reviews for the top N apps of different kinds, and he basically
I saw that. All the words,
most commonly used keywords. It's really
so
interesting.
Funny.
The pattern that comes up in all of them is generally price. Like, was this worthwhile? And I know sometimes I'll go and look at an app, and it's really the same thing as anything on the web, where once you allow people to review something, you see the mob, and then you see the reaction to the mob. And you see all these takedowns. Once something is on like the top N on the iTunes store, people just go after it. You know what I mean? There's these great apps that people are they're literally saying things like, I guess I should have read the description.
You see that a lot, don't you?
And now, have you also noticed when you get an app now, or do you notice when you get updates on your iPhone, how often now in the release notes, if you're a nerd who reads that, they'll say, we have no way to respond to comments on the App Store, so please file bugs over here. I think people are realizing that's a huge deal. There's a site I like a lot called Alternative 2. I don't know if you guys have seen this.
Yeah, love that site. Love that.
It's a really neat site, and of course, it's susceptible to the same gaming. Some of it seems a little suspicious, but I agree with you. And I think if I understand what you're saying, it's not just that you got to go to Apple. It's not just that you got to go to one site. It's that you really have to understand the landscape for whatever it is you're looking at and the context. And you find up-to-date stuff, right? Search for stuff in the last N days. People don't even know you can do this on Google. Like, say, only show me stuff from the last month. Right. That can actually be a really easy way to bubble up interesting stuff.
And one thing that I love about this market, I have to say, is that the apps are so inexpensive. So while I make a lot of I make a lot of wrong turns, I love the fact that I'm making wrong turns at 99 cents, $2.99, because, man, I've made wrong turns at $2,000 a pop, and it's a real big bummer, and so it's really nice to that's the one thing I am excited about, and I'm glad that there's a lot of downward pressure on the prices, because it makes me buy a lot of apps. I still spend a lot of money on apps, but I know that, like I got a map of Paris that was just totally useless, some map software. I'm not going to mention who they were, but it was just totally useless, and I didn't, it didn't cost me $5.99 or whatever, and I was mad for about an hour, and then I was like, well, it's prices of coffee here, so.
Yeah, it's not ideal, but at least it makes it acceptable.
Right.
I mean, whenever I hear about someone who wants to price an app at $10 or $20, and they might tell me how much money it costs for them to develop it because they have a team of programmers. But I'm thinking, wow, it's almost as if I take out my usual iPhone app using brain and put in a brand new brain whenever the price gets above $9.99, because do you have to dazzle me with an app on the iPhone or even the iPad above $9.99?
Well, here's Marco's most common words unique to 1-star and 5-star App Store reviews. He crawled the reviews for the top 100 apps from every category. The 5-star rating, most common words were awesome, worth, thanks, amazing, simple, perfect, price, everything, ever, must, iPod, before, found, store, never, recommend, done, take, always, and touch. And the 1-stars, waste, money, crashes, tried, useless, nothing, paid, opened, deleted, downloaded, didn't, says, stupid, anything, actually, account, bought, Apple already.
That's such an interesting
that's like beat poetry. That is beautiful.
It is.
What should be in those 1-star reviews? The one word that really should be in a lot of those.
Sucks. What?
Jailbroken.
Jailbroken.
I see a bunch of script kiddies in there going like, sir, or fail. It's like, oh, dude, you're totally on a jailbroken phone, It's like...
Useless is a very common word, he says, in the 1-stars. More than any other adjective, reviewers condemn apps they don't like as useless.
And again, I think that for me, a lot of when I don't really write reviews of apps that I don't like that often, unless they are more than about $2.99 or $3.99.
Right.
And if I don't like them and they're more than $3.99, they're going to get a piece of my mind.
Yep.
There's going to be a whole lot of like, okay, because under that I'm like, didn't work.
So we're going to take a little bit of a break. I do have my my source at Verizon with some surprising news. We'll get to that in just a little bit. More news too, and then of course our picks of the week. But this portion of the show brought to you by our friends at Citrix, who make a product for those of you who have friends, relatives, maybe even clients, maybe even do this for a living, who need help. It's called Go to Assist Express, and if you've never used it, you've got to give it a try. It is absolutely the best program out there for helping people online. If you go to gotoassist.com and take a look at it, you'll see all sorts of nice features designed for the support professional. Things like 8 sessions at once. You don't have to, your support person, whether it's your mom, your dad, or the client down the hall or across the world, doesn't have to have it installed ahead of time. You can give them a link or even send them to the webpage, gotoassist.com, and say, here's your support ticket, enter this in. within seconds, you're in their system fixing their stuff, like Ceiling Cat, just in there, making it better.
And it even makes that noise.
Business, let's see, Go to Assist Express was named the worldwide market leader in remote support by Frost & Sullivan. This is an analyst group that focuses on that sector. The #1 remote support solution worldwide because it's easy to use, it's affordable, it's secure. They even have day passes for the part-time helper. You can see what software is running, what security software is running in the background, all of that. Go to assist.com/ now I got to see because this is the first time we've advertised this on this show. /MacBreak. Go to assist.com/MacBreak. Yes, of course, it works with Macs and Windows. In fact, what's cool is you can support a Windows PC from your Mac or vice versa. Go to Assist. Try it free for 30 days. Go to assist.com/MacBreak. Whenever my mom has tech support needs, that's where I fire up Go to Assist. Here it is. Now, I don't want to say names. This guy works at Verizon. He runs a team that evaluates and tests new hardware. So he's in pretty good situation to know what's coming up. He says, I and my team have a solid 6-month, in fact, nearly 12-month look at the Verizon roadmap as part of the test process. He says neither the iPhone nor the iPad are on that roadmap. Now, he said, what if, for instance, the iPhone will be tested and launched outside of normal procedures? He says, well, I know the HQ device testing folks, they don't know anything. Perhaps only the C-level folks at Verizon know what the plan will be. But if they don't test it, well, we know what happens when you launch something and you don't test. He also says, see, hello?
I was just saying, or the possibility that the people who are not supposed to talk about this at Verizon are not, in fact, talking about this. Maybe.
Could be. I'll just, we're hearing this very solid rumor now that January for the Verizon phone, and he says, I don't see it happening.
Yeah, this is, but there's somebody at Verizon watching this going, and this is why we don't tell you about it.
And
you idiot.
As for
we leaked the information. We weren't working on a Verizon phone only to you, and it got out that we're not working on an iPhone. Collect your things.
So what, do they have a secret skunkworks testing Verizon?
If you were trying to make sure that this worked with Apple and you understood Apple's propensity, you would have a completely separate group and said, we're going to, we would like to borrow. Your finger is going to have a little ring, and if you do anything wrong, we're just going to push a little button and remotely pop it off.
Maybe. Also, he does say that there is an exception perhaps with the iPad because we only have to test the wireless module. Right. So it's since the module may already be certified, they may not have to go through a testing process for the iPad. So it is very possible that he says an iPad could be launched at Verizon wireless without internal teams knowing about it. He seems pretty convinced, but okay, I'm just giving you that.
I'm just saying, as usual, as soon as someone hands me an iPhone or an iPad with a Verizon logo on it, then I'll actually no, I won't believe it, because one concession they'll definitely get is that you're not allowed to put the Verizon logo anywhere on the device. But you know what I mean.
That's right. How many people do you think is there a huge pent-up demand waiting for the iPhone to go on a Verizon? A lot of people who are believing. I'll tell you what, Consumer Reports did it again. Apple, as you know, the free bumper program ends a couple of weeks this month, and Consumer Reports said, you know what, we're still not recommending the iPhone 4. We think consumers shouldn't be required to fix a manufacturing defect. We do believe there is a manufacturing defect in the iPhone 4 with the antenna, and we're not too happy about them discontinuing the bumper program. So, do you think there are a lot of people who read these, reviews and say,
well, actually, they're not discontinuing the entire program. They're just continuing the free case program. You can still get a free bumper case.
Oh, I get it.
It says we now know the iPhone 4 antenna attenuation issue is even smaller than we originally thought. Good news. A small percentage of blah blah blah. A small percentage need a case. We want to continue providing them a bumper case for free for everyone else. We are discontinuing the free case program on all iPhone 4 sold after September 30th.
Got it. Okay. Is that a change? Because it was my impression when Steve announced it that they said through September 30th for the whole program. So it sounds like they've decided to keep the bumpers going.
All right.
The ones that they make them. It looks like the ones that they make themselves are good, but they're not going to keep buying stuff from Cachefly or other manufacturers.
Right.
I I think that the number one limiter to how many iPhones Apple is selling is how fast they can make them, because it's still 3 weeks. It's still 3 weeks.
Right. It
3
is,
weeks wait.
So there can't be too much pent-up demand.
And I couldn't believe.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'll say something later.
The one thing I have to say is that while I thought I saw a lot of iPhones in the United States, in London and in Paris, it was all. I mean, it was all iPhones. I mean, I was amazed at how many. I mean, there was a handful of business people I saw with BlackBerries, but outside of that, it was like everybody had an iPhone. It was I was kind of taken aback by that. So.
I thought there was an interesting detail. There was a very long, in-depth interview with the CEO of Foxconn, and it's your basic profile of the industry titan.
What a great article that was, by the way. It was a must-read.
Great article. But hidden in the middle of it, it's about a third of the way in, is the interesting information that when Apple locked in on that iPhone 4 metal band case, and Foxconn said, well, we can't make this because you need a special cyber machine to make this case, and it's a machine that was designed not for mass production but for doing one-offs.
It's a prototype
prototype, right?
Yeah.
And so Apple said, no, we really like this design, and so they had to buy I think the number was 20,000. I think it was 20,000 of these machines just so that they could manufacture enough of these cases, because again, the machine is not designed for mass production.
Just for the metal band. Just for the metal band.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting article. So
it's amazing they're keeping up with the demand at all.
Yeah. So you're right. It's moot. So what if there's pent-up demand? They can't make enough anyway.
Right. I mean, I think that
iPad seems to have caught up. You can get an iPad now in a couple of days.
Yeah, and I think that the iPhone will continue to be strong. I think that if they did release it, I think there is a lot of people that that are on Verizon that really are committed to having great phone service.
Right.
Right. As crazy as that may sound to have with a phone,
that's crazy. Crazy talk.
That's not part of that 90% of the 90%, is it? Though?
Yeah. No. It's
crazy talk.
No,
and of course now that they're selling the Wi-Fi iPad in China, which shows that they can make them fast enough, because you're suddenly opening up a huge market for your iPad.
Right.
So the iPad they've licked. I guess it's that band.
Well, I think I think that the iPad is a lot more expensive and the demand is a lot lower than the iPhone.
Of course, you're right.
So you're just moving a lot less.
It's not really more expensive when you add the 2 years indentures.
But the how much it hurts when you
the out of pocket.
Out of pocket, I think. We're not sophisticated to think that far out.
Yeah.
How much do you think the iPhone supply stuff has to do with? Is it at all related to the white iPhone issue?
Still can't get the white iPhone.
Well, that's what I'm asking. Do you think there's cycles totally unrelated?
All I can say is that there is a fascinating. I was talking to a manufacturer who I'll remain nameless in IBC, and they had a product that uses one part that shares with the iPhone. He said it costs a penny for this one little chip that they need. And, they're just easy. I mean, it's mass manufacturing. He said we had to delay our release of our product by 3 months because Apple bought the world's supply.
Every one of them.
Apple needs a bunch of them for every iPhone or whatever, and he said they just bought it out. They can't.
It's really amazing the challenges a successful product can bring up, right?
Yeah.
Especially in the electronics industry where you've got lots of parts.
I was talking to somebody who's in manufacturing, not a different kind of electronics, and I got a 20-minute lecture on how difficult it is to make something white.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why so many things are black is that black is easy. Not only that, but black will hide a multitude of manufacturing and molding defects. Not only you start off with a problem of how do you make 100, let alone 100,000 copies of something that are the same shade of white, but then there's the problem of now that means we have to build these things in a whole separate place, because if anything interferes with that finish, even if it's just not a change in color, but a change in how light will react to that section of the surface, it will scream out in white. And so that's why I have no inside information about Apple's manufacturing problems, but he was making clear to me that as soon as I heard that there was going to be a white iPhone, a material that they didn't have much experience with, I thought, oh boy, that's going to be a collector's item.
Semi-transparent.
Kindle, new ad, slamming the iPad. Let's take a look.
The iPad.
Here they are at a lovely pool. He's trying to read on his iPad.
Lovely lady, and what are you looking at? The iPad. Okay.
How are you reading that?
She's reading
in this light.
A Kindle.
It's a Kindle. $139. I actually paid more for these sunglasses.
Also, I can't read.
Well, lady, with this reflective screen, I could see you and me together.
There's a guy going home alone. I can tell you that right now. Holy cow!
Really? Tell me more about it. Why, is the view angle on that Kindle screen wide enough that the two of us on that couch could watch it together?
Excuse me, madam, is your Kindle felt?
Would you like to be?
It is now.
Can you play? Here's my only question: is can you play Angry Birds on that Kindle? I don't think so.
There you go. He should be playing Angry Birds. There you go.
Oh,
Is
yeah,
this
well, I have
new?
an 8-foot processor, and I can actually load a cloudless lead of the Dropbox, and I can run Kindle. I can jailbreak it really easy. Stupid
Is this
ladies.
new in
Ladies are
the
stupid.
in the Apple support store? This Express Lane. This is kind of cool. You pick the product category. It's a Finder-like browser. Then you pick the product, and then you select a support category, and then you could put in your hardware serial number, and it will give you support. This is kind of cool. It's called Express Lane, and somebody sent me a link in the chat room. That looks pretty cool. The new Express Lane support from Apple. Okay, just thought I'd throw that in. Let's take a... actually, I don't have a break. We could go right into our picks of the week. Unless you guys... I'll give you one chance to bring up a story, any story that you think...
Can I ask something that's off topic?
Merlin
that's
Man.
unusual for me. Did you guys see David Pogue's rather enthusiastic review for the Virgin MiFi? And B, did you see the comments?
Well, one of the reasons I and others like it is because it's cheap. It's $40 a month for the same Sprint service that you pay
I'm asking for
$60
two reasons. I'm asking because, first of all, it sounds, as they say in the business, too good to be true. But I thought this is one of the 7 times in the history of the internet where the comments were super, super interesting, just because of people's experience with it. And I'm curious, Andy, you're the head nerd here. Have you tried this thing?
I have not tried it yet. Hopefully, one is on its way.
I use the same hardware on Verizon, the Nova.
Right.
The Nova.
So
Yeah,
am I hearing that you don't have connectivity problems, Leo?
Not at all. Love it.
Okay, good. Okay.
I actually
I think-
traded
I
it
think
in
it's a great
because my new
device.
Droid X phone also has the same capability, so for less.
Yeah.
So I have that. Still that.
As numerous commenters also opined. I popped for the Verizon one, and I'm happy with it, but not nearly as happy as I would be if that thing worked the way David described it.
You have connectivity issues?
No, I'm sorry, I do not, but I do have spending too much on Verizon crap issues.
Yeah, I have that as well.
But the way he describes it, what is $40 a month for quote unquote unlimited?
It's
probably capped at 5. I think it's on the Sprint network. Yeah.
It's Sprint via Virgin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had conversations.
Sprint
with
owns
before
Virgin
that
Mobile. So.
The follow up question is, oh well, we define unlimited as 5 gigabytes.
Yeah.
So I'd have to check. Although
I know
I'll
Sprint,
never-
Sprint traditionally has been 5 gigabytes.
I'll never understand. It doesn't make any sense. Unlimited is 5 gigabytes. I don't get it.
I know that, and you're doing a good impression of Andy Ihnatko at the other end of that conversation.
Exactly.
Hey, I think we should start a
Black
class
is white.
action.
Truth is lies.
I'm saying class action.
I remember once in college, I saw the board at the Wendy's. You know, the little what's on specials up on the sign. It said all you can eat cheeseburgers, 99 cents each. And I thought, you know what?
That's true. There's no
accurate, and
lie there.
That's kind of what they're saying
Well,
here. You know,
all you can eat.
I would rather they say 5 gigs. I'd rather say 3 gigs if it means 3 gigs. Because if you've ever been on certain, I will not mention certain very popular shared hosting services where they've completely oversold, and if 1/10 of the people use the bandwidth that they said they were going to use, the whole place would collapse. You know, again, you get back into these issues. If you really use this stuff the way they say you're supposed to, if you really drive the car like they do in the commercial, you're going to die.
You know, that's how Jim Baker got sent to jail, because for the exact same reasons, for the exact same stuff that phone carriers and broadband carriers sell. He went to jail because he sold enough like timeshares into his little like Christian themed resort that if everybody wanted to use it, there'd be no way he could serve all those rooms. And he went to jail. Good TV for everybody, but why? Somehow it's a different thing when Verizon and Sprint and all these other networks do it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because no one's ever going to do it. I guess.
He also thought his viewers' patience was unmetered, which turned out not
He
to be true.
also looked like a frog. That probably didn't help him.
And he had that. What is it about TV ministers and having?
I don't know what it is that Merlin's doing, but
You know,
it was very effective. That suddenly frozen
Sorry.
That
You know-
was
you know
the
why? 'Cause I
word
was
of
mentioning-
God preventing you from breaching your punishment through the internet.
Hands on the Skype device. So David apparently did not know that Virgin was owned by Sprint. Are you complaining because his review was unusually?
I'm not complaining at all. I read it on the Instapaper and I went, because it sounded so magical. And then I
Well,
went.
it did appear that David had never heard of this device, which
It
has been
seemed
out
like
for
he
like
hadn't-
a year and a
it's-
half.
Well, can I be honest? It seemed like he hadn't used it or touched it. And,
Well, I mean, that's why I assume when I heard people ask me about it, I wanted to get one just to see if it burns. I've had the MiFi from Verizon. Like I reviewed it, sent it back. And I liked it so much that I actually bought one because
Me too.
it's
I think on your
it's-
recommendation, Dave.
Yeah, I have one too.
But the interesting thing, though, this is one of the many things I would not have predicted in the post iPad world. I am really considering dropping it only because it's $60 a month. And I feel as though I'm sort of in like one of those that scene in the movie where two people are holding a grenade and the pin is dropped out, and if anybody drops it, it destroys everybody. That's what I feel like, because I signed up for what I thought was going to be 30 days worth of 3G coverage on my iPad 3G, and then AT&T announced we're going from unlimited all you can eat 3G to a cap of 2 gigs. But if you're already on contract, you will continue to have that in perpetuity. So I've unexpectedly added $30 a month because I feel like I'd be an idiot with the Netflix app and all those other cool streaming apps on the iPad to say goodbye to unlimited, like all you can eat 40 gigabytes a month, doesn't matter, access to the internet. And yet I feel as though it's stupid for me to be paying $30 a month for this 3G service and also $60 a month for the MiFi. Right. Why don't I just get tethering when I need it on the months that I need it?
And I have to admit that I use the MiFi as much for a Wi-Fi, a wireless
base station,
base station. So if I want to have a whole bunch of things connected and have a network that we're building like on set somewhere, and I just need I need 3 or 4 computers to be connected. To me, I don't even care if it connects to the internet. I just need it to be able to connect everybody together without having to plug anything in. Without I turn that thing on and I got 5 computers on a bus, on a plane. I shouldn't say that on a plane. Not that I would ever do that.
No.
So anyway, but I can get everybody connected, right? Without having to tie up one of the computers doing it. So
I just got a real education when can you hear me? Am I coming through?
Yeah.
I just got a real education. I just went to England for the first time a couple weeks ago. And Gruber and I spent like 2 days trying to figure out how to use our phones over there. And finally, what I ended up doing, I guess what I'm saying is I became acutely aware of how much the cloud can rain if you're not careful. I bought basically what they consider a month worth of high activity use, and I went through it in 2 days.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's the international plan, so it's 50 megabytes. And
I bought 250 when I went to China. The other thing I learned, which was very disappointing, is that the usage that's built into the iPhone where you check, under usage is not honored by AT&T. They say you have to check our app because apparently the digital roaming doesn't match. So I was very careful to watch the usage in the phone, in the settings in the phone. And when I got to, I think I bought 100 megs. When I got to 100 megs, I stopped. And turned off roaming, turned off data. I had a couple of days left in China. When I got the bill, it was for considerably more.
When I went without it out at the first time, thinking that I'm just going to use it every once in a while when I really need it.
It's really nice to have.
$800.
Yeah. But it's great to have. I have to say,
it was one of those real I can't believe I live in the 21st century moments.
Yeah.
Where I was where the time that I was able to actually send a picture to my sister and saying, does this look like I'm emailing you from Beijing? Because I'm totally emailing you from Beijing. I stayed underneath the 100 meg cap. I bought the same plan that you did.
Right.
And I was smart. I was lucky enough to read up about it enough to know that, and by the way, don't cancel after the first month because sometimes it takes a month for the foreign carriers to submit their bills. So keep it for at least 2 months.
Right.
Still a good deal.
Well, and
this is also the case where I really missed Alex, and Andy. I've got like I said, I got the Verizon with the Wi-Fi will have up to 5 devices it allows. I didn't realize exactly how much of a nerd I am until I went to this. You know how it is, you go and you get the code for the Wi-Fi because it's so precious. This quote unquote broadband internet that drops all the time. You know what I'm talking about? You go to a hotel. So I didn't want to use up all my AT&T time, so I had to go to the desk and ask for 4 codes for the stupid Wi-Fi. It's like Wi-Fi a few years ago was so exotic, and now it's crazy to me.
Everything.
Yeah, it's I can't believe how much I rely on it, and I can't believe how much hotels. Well, I guess I can believe that they charge for it, but even at the free places,
You know, I have to admit that well, number one is I know where every Starbucks is in London because we would go from Starbucks to Starbucks. Because anytime you needed to get a connection, it was like a breath of air. You'd be like underwater, unconnected. Yeah. And then it was because it's a free Wi-Fi connection. So you come to Starbucks and go, we wouldn't buy anything. We would literally just walk by the front of the Starbucks and check all of our email and do all our stuff. But the funny thing is that I didn't realize how many apps are in the App Store that are just maps of London, Paris, Amsterdam,
right? And
all they do is they just give you your GPS and they tell you where you're at, so you don't have to download it.
Why don't you use Google Maps though?
Because Google Maps requires bandwidth
data.
So the thing is by you download the home. I downloaded 183 meg download of Paris from a coffee shop or whatever, and then now had this detailed map with all the little wherever I want to go kind of things. But but anyway, it was just. But I was amazed at that. But when I was sitting in LA, I was staying at this hotel. Pretty nice hotel, and they charge $14 a day, and I basically got a 512 connection for $14 a day. And I told them, here's the deal: that I got better bandwidth in Zimbabwe. I literally, sent them the email. I got better bandwidth in Zimbabwe for a lot less money. I'm happy to pay $22, $25 a day if you're going to give me a solid 200, like a solid 2 meg or 3 meg or 4 meg connection. I'm that kind of user. At least you should give me that option. And then I got to Paris, and there was it was $25 a day, but it was really fast. And so at first I was complaining, and then I was like, okay, well, it's a 3 meg connection, and I was able to download all of our files and upload things we needed to. But I did realize that I am just completely addicted to.
I find it's not a luxury. You just got to.
Can I point out one thing that's at the heart of this? It's not a matter of going, I got to check my email. It's a question of a lot of my devices have to share a Wi-Fi network. So if I want to use, I rely very heavily on Goodreader. There's probably 4 or 5 apps that really, it's not just fun, jokey stuff. It's like how I run my business, and they have to be able to sync with each other to do stuff.
And I think,
at least it's available. At least it's a possibility.
Well, and I think this is exactly why it does not make sense to have the laws that some of our states have picked up, where municipalities cannot invest in their own internet. Because I think this is becoming especially if you're a tourist region, this is something that a mesh network that connects everyone in an entire city, where I don't have to keep on logging in. I don't have to find Starbucks. I don't have to find a coffee shop.
See what Chattanooga's doing? You might want to move to Chattanooga.
Kigali, Rwanda is WiMAXed. The entire capital is WiMAXed. They're running fiber into it for $10 a month. You'll have a 256K connection in the next 30 days. And the thing is that that's what our city should be doing. They should be considered. And Chattanooga is a great example. What is that? Is it going to be a gigabit? Is it going to be a gigabit?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's going to compete with Hong Kong in offering the fastest internet service on the planet. The Times says by year-end, Chattanooga's high-speed internet service will be a gigabit a second. This is what that Google thing was going to be, right? Mm-hmm. Right. So Chattanooga's doing it.
Well, and I think that municipalities have to consider this a competitive advantage in an area where unemployment may stay at 9 or 10%.
Well, you got to think that companies are now saying, I mean, if I'm I should move to Chattanooga. If I can get gigabit,
yep.
It's the Chattanooga Power Utility, EPB, will be doing it.
Well, yeah. Well, San Francisco doesn't. To me, I think San Francisco is actually a bad town to do tech.
Unbelievable. My friend that lives outside Portland, Matt Howie, lives in the sticks and gets FiOS. I have exactly one provider that I can get for internet. Period. It starts with a com, ends with a cast, and has a giant suck in the middle. And that's literally the sole provider of internet connectivity in my area. Yeah. Which is, I guess, there's that one you see a lot. There's that one wireless service you can get. But as far as wired internet, it's mind-boggling.
I think it's just spotty. I don't think it's San Francisco per se or what. It's just it's inconsistent throughout the country, and it's one of those things that we haven't invested in as far as infrastructure goes. And I think we should. I think you're right. It's a competitive advantage.
And the folks who did invest in infrastructure are still trying to amortize placing the wrong bets.
By the way, that Chattanooga broadband will be $350 a month for the gigabit. But see, I pay $700 for 10 megabits. So.
Yep.
That's a lot of meg.
And I thought that was a deal.
I pay $1,000 for 10 megs symmetrical.
Right. We got 9 megs symmetric, and that's $700 here. So it is a deal. All right. We've really got to wrap this puppy up. I know you guys are beautiful and wonderful, but we're just running out of time here. So maybe, Alex, you can give us your pick of the week.
Okay, I have to say that I have a totally self-serving pick.
Okay.
But I've worked very hard on it.
Okay.
We are releasing Conduit 2, which is our nodal compositor, dvgarage.com. And Conduit 2 is basically it is free for 90 days, and we're not sure what the price will be after that. For the standalone version is free. So download it, check it out. It is what this is a nodal compositor based on the GPU. It is screaming fast. You can do green screen. You can feed a camera in live and key it live. And when I say key it live, uncompressed 444 data, into this thing or your little camera, whatever. And play with it. There's a bunch of little tutorials there. You can see how to use it. It is a little Swiss Army knife for compositing and playing with videos. And as I said, we're putting it up for free. We want people to get a chance to use it. So instead of 30 days, which I don't think is enough to learn how to use this application, it's 90 days. We've got some tutorials. We're going to put up a ton of new tutorials in the not too distant future. And look at the great graphic. It's beautiful. McKay did that in our office.
Love it.
He is a god. So anyway, great. Anyway, so we're very proud of it.
dvgarage.com.
Yep. Anyway, that's it.
Moylan Mann, what is your pick?
I'm sorry, I am unmuting because my Tactile Pro 2.0 keyboard is the loudest thing in the world. I'm trying to quickly write this up so I can post this on my little site and you guys can see. I'm going to go with 2 picks because I haven't been here for a while. And I apologize if you've already done this one. It's funny. On my desktop, I don't open iCal anymore. I go straight into BusyCal. And now on my iPhone, I'm all about Calvetica.
Calvetica?
Calvetica?
Have you done
what?
Have you done Calvetica?
What is Calvetica?
It's like Helvetica with a cow.
Well, yeah, I guess it's part of
Cal,
the
like moo cow, or Cal, like California?
C-A-L as in gorgeous, as in Helvetica. And it's, what it is basically a beautifully designed, it's very simple looking, but it's very functional.
It's a calendar. It's not a font.
No, I'm sorry. It's a replacement. It's a Helvetica-esque Swiss-looking replacement, international design, excuse me, replacement for the calendar app.
Cool.
And it's going to be difficult for me to explain without actually. You can probably just see in this demo video. It's very easy to quickly add things. It's more intuitive to me in terms of how you use it. It's got a nice little notifications pop up and nice little stuff like if you want to change the time of something, all you have to do is hit edit and then kind of scoot the event around. It's a beautiful app.
Thank you. Finally.
The first version of this was really beautiful and useful. This 2.0 is on another level. I think it's a fantastic app.
Nice.
Are you catching in that video there? Are you catching all the different?
Yeah.
You can add as many notifications as you want.
Yeah.
And like a lot of great, like all of my favorite iPhone apps, it gives you as little Chrome as possible, but as much functionality when you need it. So there's lots of sliding to do stuff. Anyway, Calvetica, what's it cost, Leo? You're on the site.
$2.99, Mr. Mann.
That's
in fact, I'm buying it right now.
I bought it. I'm downloading it at the moment.
I really like, even if you're not like a Helvetica, Calvetica, even if you're not a nerd for typefaces, I think it's a pretty good app. I really like it a lot. The other one this is embarrassing. My friend Scott Simpson uses this phrase. He calls it, what's it calling? He calls it magic. We actually have a Flickr group called Magic Shopping Wonder Space, which is for when he and I have way over Lightroomed our photos to where they're like everything's way too sharp and way too.
I've done that. Yeah.
Anyway, go check out Magic Shopping. I think it's Magic Shopping Wonder Space. Well, I have the ultimate Magic Shopping Wonder Space. I personally am not a huge fan of all the make this look like a Lomo kind of apps.
Right.
But there's one app that if you look at my Flickr, you can see I've been doing this way too much lately. It's called Pro HDR. And as y'all know, in photos, there's this thing called bracketing where you can basically say, take 3 photos at these different stops. And then later on, I'm going to push these together and I'm going to capture all of the highlights in this one photo and all of the shadows, I guess, in the other, and then it intelligently combines them to make it, so if you've seen those awful looking things you see on Flickr Explorer where it's a cathedral and it's way too bright, well, you can make that with this, but it's really cool and it's really easy. Pro HDR pops open and it's got modes. It's got an auto mode. Yeah, so that was done with, it's a little
beautiful.
over the top.
No, I love it.
Yeah, and you can see it. You've got
you get the weird thing though with the spook in there. Yeah,
exactly. You get these. But what's nice is that those were all taken. Oh, it's my daughter. Those were all taken with That actually that's in Brighton. That's
Is
where
it
I
a
was.
single exposure in the iPhone or?
Well, here's what's neat. They had this manual mode before where you would pick a highlight and then pick a low light. And now it's got a manual mode as well. I still like the manual mode better.
And you like this better than the 4.1?
No comparison.
Yeah.
No comparison. So,
I have to say,
right
looking
there.
at...
Stop right there.
Okay, I'll go back.
To that other one.
Okay, here we go.
So if you go back to that one, I'm sorry, people who are listening to audio, it's Leo's fault. Notice how I brought up all the coolness in the inside and all the warmth on the outside. You can even go and mess with your photos in another app, and then with a couple clicks, pull them together into a photo.
I
here.
see. So you did different white balances for the outside and the inside.
I don't want to do this look for the rest of my life, but it's really fast and easy, and you get a much larger dynamic range, especially in high contrast situations where it would be all highlights and anyway, it's a really neat app. HDR Pro HDR by iApps, and I don't even know how much it costs. But
$1.99.
Yeah,
insane.
we were talking with Trey Ratcliffe, the king of HDR, about the iPhone's HDR on the radio show. He also recommended this app. He said it's better, much better than the built-in 4.1. So.
You put them next to each other, and so anyway, just very quickly, what this does is it takes two photos. It takes a photo of the very highlight stuff and the very low light stuff. You can do this all manually with other apps if you want, but what's nice is once you've picked your highlight, you pick your low light, and you hit go, it's like chukka chukka, so you don't get the blur like you do in most. iPhone. Anyway, I'm working on doing more subtle stuff with it, but if you just want a really interesting look, really utilizing the better sensor stuff of the iPhone, it's a really neat app. It's a lot of fun.
Very good. Andy Ihnatko, your pick of the week, my friend.
I'm standing carefully out of the way because I think some of you are going to guess what my pick of the week is. Let's see how well this works. Hang on.
Oh, my God. What's going on?
Oh, no
way. We got this special super-duper helicopter hover drone.
Yep. Hang on. Up.
It's going to shoot at us. Whoa. He's dead. Oh, the humanity. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Are you okay, Andy?
Okay, the good news is it's very durable.
It's not supposed to happen.
Well, it's you see, what you're supposed to do is...
And he doesn't, by the way, he doesn't have the special protective bumper ring on it either.
Oh, I played with this at CES. It is so awesome.
So cool.
We lost you.
We're not hearing you, but we're seeing it.
No, I'm stepping. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Oh, you weren't on mic. Yeah.
Okay. Well, because I was trying to hold the...
I know. It's too many things.
It's really difficult to pilot it while watching yourself on, like, the remote screen over here. What you're supposed to be doing is actually looking at your iPhone screen. And hang on, I'm going to zoom in a little bit.
Hey, folks, if you didn't watch today's show on video, you really must go to twit.tv/MBW and get the video version of this.
Actually, I'm inadvertently showing off something kind of cool where a lot of this now. So, okay, let's backing up 1 second. It is a... yeah.
Okay, we now know he's not wearing shoes. So there's a camera on this hover.
So there's a camera on it. Here we go. Now this is going to be just like Avatar. It's a multi-camera setup.
Ooh.
There we go.
Ooh.
Okay. So there's a video camera on. There we go. There's a video camera on the helicopter. God, I have to hold the copter steady and the phone steady. Okay. I am not going to even look at either of these things. So you have a full control deck in front of you. And so you actually can steer and navigate by looking at the camera, not necessarily by trying to look around outside the camera, which is what I was trying to do.
Right.
But the cool thing is that if you do nothing, if you don't touch the controls at all, it uses its own logic to simply say, what do I have to do in order to hover in position where I am right now? So essentially, if I simply let it hover right now and let it chew up my arm because I've got because the blades are now exposed. It would simply sort of like bob a little bit, but it will pretty much stay where it is right now. But there are also two controls to the left and the right of the iPhone screen. One that's using one control just for elevation and rotation, and the other one is to control where it's moving, where it's leaning one way or another to move around. And it is pretty hard to damage. The fact that it's not impossible to damage is demonstrated by the fact that if you go to the website, there are lots of replacement parts available for this. But I've been playing with it for the past 3 or 4 days, and I haven't broken it yet. It is a hell of a lot of fun. Obviously, I'm not quite good enough with it yet that I can do that really cool thing where this thing hovers and does not stray, doesn't even stray 1 inch as it parks itself in front of the video camera. But you see like how sophisticated some of the controls are. What it's showing me right now is that it detects, it's told the iPhone, the helicopter told the iPhone that I've crashed into something. So I've turned myself off because clearly you don't know what you're doing at this point in time. So now I have to actually hit a reset switch in order to get it going again. I'm now going to turn it on again to see how well I can do. I'm going to leave the room.
They've really perfected this a lot since we saw it at CES, haven't they?
Exactly. It works really great.
It's become a real consumer product.
Okay, so I'm going to step away from the mic. Let me see if I can get it to go right in front of the camera.
And now Andy is stepping away from the mic to see if he can chop his camera in half.
Well, also realize that there's a camera, there are 3 sets of lights, there's a microphone. You're going to see some crashing. Hang on.
This is the Parrot, right?
This is the Parrot AR. If you want to Google for the thing, here we go.
Okay, I just want to make sure that this is the same one we saw.
It's got Prime shipping.
Okay, I'm now stepping into the safety cage. So the safety shrouds are now off, by the way.
You're supposed to put that special bumper on it so it doesn't chop your head off. Here he goes. He's now using the iPhone.
It's alive.
See, I was going to recommend... Oh, look at that. Oh, that's so cool. I was going to recommend Chopper 2 for the iPhone, which is just a virtual one of these. So now he's really kind of...
Down boy.
Now he's taking the asbestos off the ceiling, and now he's about... Oh!
Okay, I haven't been really instrumented on this thing yet.
That was the mic.
As you see, it's fun for you and the whole family.
Yeah, how much is it?
It's like $250, so it's definitely something that in most households you're going to get your 4 kids together and saying, how many of you would like to pool together your birthday presents to make this happen?
It's interesting, they call it the flying video game. I guess it is, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, there are a bunch of, it's kind of like what you saw in the demo when you saw the YouTube video earlier at CES,
right? Where
there are a bunch of, there are pads of stickers so that you can get it to sort of sense its environment. It works via a one-to-one Wi-Fi connection between... First, let's make sure that. Okay, good. I was about to turn the camera facing you, but you're going to get a really good shot of my butt, maybe. And that probably was not going to be too good for the viewers back home. No. But yeah, I mean, you can get it. It's a one-to-one Wi-Fi connection between any iPod or iPod Touch and the helicopter. It's a little bit, I think it inherits a lot from RC helicopter community as opposed to the iPhone community, because setting up the software is not 100% there. It's a little bit, I had to debug a couple of things to get it to work, but it's easy to go through the instructions. Also, the only other thing I don't like about it is that the battery will last about 15 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. Right now, there's a battery indicator on the phone itself, and it's telling me that the battery is now at 44%. I've been running it for maybe 6 or 7 minutes. So it's definitely not something where you're going to be walking the dog and, having this thing bobbing behind you as you go. But it recharges pretty quickly. It also gives you enough time to wrestle your brothers and sisters on the living room sofa to figure out who gets to play with it next. It's a hell of a lot of fun.
Boy, it sure looks like it.
Exactly. It's like this was the productivity killer. Like the day I came back from Chicago and this was waiting for me on the doorstep, and I'm like, I better cancel that lunch meeting I have for tomorrow because I have a feeling I'm either going to be playing with this or repairing a lot of broken lamps.
The AR drone, a couple of $100. It's ardrone.parrot.com.
Right. And it's all foam. So again, I've crashed this thing many times, and it's still ticking just fine. So
it takes a licking and it keeps on chopping.
Exactly.
The AR drone. Boy, I really should have let you go last, because anything I'm going to do now is a complete anticlimax to that. This is a kind of an interesting iPad app. I was going to show it on iPad today, and then Grand Theft Auto came out on Thursday. I should say this for this Thursday, but I'm sure something else great will come along. This is a free program called ZoomoCast that lets you play audio, video, or access files over the Wi-Fi network on your iPad, your iPhone, or any other computer. It sets up an ad hoc network that actually really, really works well. So you have to run ZoomoCast on the computer, by the way, PC or Mac. Choose the folders that are available. And then if I go to my iPad, where I'm also running the free ZoomoCast application, I'll just tap it. We're on the same network. In fact, it can use the internet as well. You can see my MacBook Pro at home is also visible. So here's the shared folders on here. I can look at documents and access the documents, which is very handy. But I can also play back movies and music. In fact, I'll look in my Amazon MP3. It works with the iTunes as well. Won't work with the encrypted music, but you can actually play back music over your network on your iPad.
What's it doing on your computer when you do that?
Gee, I don't know. It's just kind of sitting there.
Wow.
Just got a little thing running on the computer. It's just a little stub that runs all the time. It actually sits up here in the there's a pro version, but I haven't paid anything. This is all the free stuff, and it's working. It works pretty well.
ZoomoCast?
ZUMOCAST.com. Let me stop the music. That's playing over the Wi-Fi, but it also will play over the internet. Let me just you'll see the videos aren't maybe quite so fast. But it does. Here's one of the reasons you really would want it. It transcodes a whole bunch of video files that will not play on the iPad. This is an MPEG-4, by the way, and plays them. So if you have stuff in DivX or all sorts of weird things, you don't have to do the transcoding. It does it for you kind of on the fly.
Have you used AirVideo before, Leo?
No, it's probably similar to this, huh?
Because AirVideo, though, you can transcode it remotely, but it still has to transcode it. So this is doing it
does it on the fly. Yeah, I was able to play back almost. I couldn't find any video that I couldn't play back. Now, of course, it's buffering because it's streaming a massive file over the internet. But once it plays, actually, I think this is a format that the iPad will handle. But I tried it with a lot of formats that it wouldn't, including WMV files, and they play back just fine. Meanwhile, Andy's out in the deck trying to chop, trying to mow the lawn with his AR drone.
I just thought that I heard Dad saying that's not an indoor toy. You might have been right.
I can even. It looks like I can see. Oh, there he goes. Well, we're gonna I'm gonna play my little videos on ZoomoCast. Alex is going to go do some conduiting. Merlin's going to go off.
Okay, I'll do an HDR photo of my screen and post
do a little HDR photo of his screen. And Andy's going to give himself a haircut. We thank you all for joining us on this.
That back head just needs some trimming. Don't worry about it. It's much cheaper than hiring a guy for $250.
I actually can't wait to try that Calvetica. That looks pretty cool, too. Yeah. Thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it. Mr. Alex Lindsay is with the Pixel Corps, pixelcorps.com, for that great guild of multimedia artists who are learning and working together. It's a great place to go if you want to get those skills and get the work. Also, see, now my video is playing. I should stop that on the iPad. Also, of course, pixelcorps.tv for their podcasts. Lots of good ones, including MacBreak, the video version.
And I'm having lots of fun on Ping. So it's just Alex
Ping.
Lindsay. Well, here's the thing: is I used to be a music director, and there was all these songs that I know exist that no one else ever got to hear.
So follow Alex, so you'll hear.
And I write little stories. So this is like me arguing politics with Billy Bragg, and then I give you this is the song that I would listen to if I wanted to know more about Billy Bragg. And
that's cool.
So I have a whole bunch of them written, so now I just got to post them.
So are you Alex Lindsay?
Just Alex Lindsay.
All right. Well, I'm going to follow you next.
Aww.
And the people who are following me, my deepest apologies. I'm not doing anything like that. Merlin Mann is at 43folders.com. That is his. Of course, merlinmann.com is another great place to go with links to everything.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to start, posting again on the 43 folders. So not that it matters one way or another, but just for what it's worth. It's been pretty quiet as I.
Well, you've been writing a book. You've been busy.
Yeah, I guess so.
You've been busy.
I guess so.
Follow him as hot dogs ladies on Twitter.
At your peril. But thanks for having me back on, Leo.
We love having you, Merlin. We miss you so much. And don't forget, Merlin does simply the funniest show on the internet. It's called "You Look Nice Today," and you could find it online.
Those old episodes stand up fine while we're still making new ones. I recommend Vagina. I listen to Vagina.
Yeah, one of my favorites.
Go back to Vagina.
I think that in fact, probably each and every fan of "You Look Nice Today" has a favorite that they would say. If you ask them. Oh, that's the one you have to be, you have to
It says a
listen
lot
to
about the
first.
flaws in your personality, which one really appeals to you, I think.
You definitely know where you're broken.
Thanks, Leo. That's
Yeah, it's great to have you. Great to have you on. Merlin Mann, ladies and gentlemen. And, of course, Alex and Merlin are joined by the great Andy Ihnatko, who is the king of the celestial waste of bandwidth at CWOB.com. He also writes for the Chicago Sun-Times and gets to fly his little plane around all the time.
Now I have mastery of land, sea, and air.
Yeah, watch out, because he's got the high ground. So
Those folks at CBS had better watch their butts.
we're all in
because
trouble today.
I've already envisioned a multiple pincher movement. That's
Thank you, everybody, for being here. We really appreciate it. You can watch the show. We do it live 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1800 UTC, every Tuesday at live.twit.tv. You can chat along with us at irc.twit.tv. We do pay attention to the chat room, and we love it. And of course, after the fact, you can download audio or video of the show from twit.tv/mbw. I'm Leo Laporte. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. And now, get back to work. Break time is over.